Now that we've talked about, is it safe to go to Cuba? How to get around Cuba with Maps.me if you want to do the walking thing, which I highly recommend. But sometimes you're going to need something a little faster than walking, right? So we're going to talk about taxis. So in Cuba, there's many types and forms of taxis. They're extremely resourceful people. Because of, the embargo and all that stuff that's happened in our history, they're forced to use what they have. So they're very, very resourceful, and there's so many different types. So we have, you can take the more traditional taxi if you're comfortable with that. That's the traditional black and yellow taxi. You'll see that everywhere. They have the 1950s Chevy. The one with the top down is a little more luxurious, so you might pay a little more for that. They also have the regular ones with the hard top that, everything's negotiable, so you can kind of negotiate with the driver depending on where you're going. They also have the regular bus. People that take the bus that has a bunch of stops, just like most people in most bus systems in the U.S. They have, the bus, so they stop every so often, and you pay a little bit, and you go far, or it might take a long time, but you'll get there, right? So you have the regular bus. You also have people that kind of cab out their regular cars. So those aren't so obvious. You just happen to see people getting out of them and then paying, and then next thing you know, someone else walks up and asks to go somewhere. So those aren't as obvious because a lot of people are using their regular cars, kind of like an Uber thing without the app kind of thing. But they're all negotiable. So it's a real barter country, so you can definitely go ahead and barter and try to strike a good deal. And they're pretty good about it, so don't be afraid to do that. You also have a separate type of taxi, but it's sort of like a hybrid, like a taxi / bus, where it's about maybe a 15 passenger, maybe less, maybe like 8 to 15 passenger taxi van that literally only goes one direction from A to B, and they pick up people if they have a seat or not. And they just keep going down the street until they stop to where you said you needed to go. And if they're going that way, they pick you up if they got a seat. And if they're not going that way, or if they don't have a seat, they'll pass you up. So that's an extremely cheap way of getting around, but it's kind of hit or miss, and you kind of have to jockey yourself to be able to get in that position to get a seat or 2 or 3. So that's another option. Another way to get around is the 3-road trolley. If you're going around Old Havana, you'll see them everywhere. Basically, it's a bicycle with a little carriage in the back, and they kind of pedal you around the city, which is pretty cheap. It only cost us like $5 to get from A to B, and we only did it because we were in a rush, but it was pleasant. The guy was working hard, but it was pleasant, and it wasn't expensive whatsoever. They also have these little, how do I call it, like these little ladybug type carriages. It looks like like a half a shell of like a ladybug, and it's kind of like a trolley type thing too. And it's extremely cheap, definitely negotiable. I didn't personally ride in one because I spend a lot of time walking around, but that is optional. You'll see that in a lot of the main areas, a lot of touristy areas. You'll see that along with horses. They have horses, and trolleys like that in order to get around as well. So there's so many different options to get around Old Havana and just Havana in general and Cuba and all together, that you can pretty much take your pick. So all of them are negotiable. Some prices are quoted higher than others. Yes, you're going to get the guy that sees you're an American and tries to highball you, but you're watching my videos, and hopefully you've done more research to know that everything there is negotiable and stuff like that. So you can definitely barter and jockey with the guys and gals in order to get a price that's more fair or around your budget. So don't be afraid to negotiate. That's the biggest thing I can take. You can take away from this is negotiate. You'll get a great deal. Let me give you a little story. First time I went to Cuba, I went for my birthday with my friend Raul and my homegirl Lisa. And I'm doing my research and stuff like that. We get to the airport, and I'm like, Raul, you're the one that's super fluent in Spanish. You got to go ahead and negotiate. Everybody online is saying a good deal from the airport to where we're going is about $30. So you got to, make it happen. Let's save some money. The second we get there, first guy's like, hey, you need a taxi? We're like, yeah. The guy's like, $40. Raul's like, okay. I'm like, Now we're at the waiting for our ride. We're now Raul negotiated a rape deal, but I'm gonna show him how to negotiate a good deal on the way back. He charges $40 when online everybody's screaming $30 or less. This is our ride. Ow! No! So I told him I was going to negotiate a deal on the way back. And I ended up getting $20, half the price he paid, with simple negotiation. So if I can do it, you can do it too. I'm not super fluent in Spanish, but I know enough to get a good deal. So do your research. It's definitely a country that barters and jockeys and works out the problem. So you can do it, I can do it. Just go and have a good time. So those are some of the taxis, and I'm pretty sure by the time you go, there's probably going to be a couple more options because they're very, very resourceful.
To Old Havana, and everything in Old Havana obviously is old Havana.
Oilda.
Oilda?
Oilda.